Our next also extraordinary person, Devin, do you want to come on up? Everyone, can you welcome Devin Finzer, please? Devin's been a friend and a buddy and one of the founding people of NFT.NYC. We had Italian food together many, many years ago and said, let's start a conference. So big thank you for being a partner and helping us put the event on. I'm going to start by saying, I'm not sure that we all appreciate it, how difficult it is to be a CEO of a company that goes from 0 to $1 billion in 12 months and then goes through some up and downs. And what's it been like to navigate those amazing seas?
Well, yeah, it's been a incredible journey for me personally and for everyone at OpenSea. I think it's really, one of the biggest lessons for me is just how important it is to build for a long-term horizon. So thinking about things from like, how do we really create a sustainable product, a product that's going to be around for a long time, and then also from a team perspective, having people who believe in what we're doing has been really, really critical, right? Because I think one of the things that happens when a company has overnight success is inevitably you have people who are there for the ride up and the excitement and the rocket ship part, but they're not necessarily there for the right reasons, right? And so a big piece of what we've been focusing on at OpenSea is really just kind of going back to our roots and saying, let's actually build with the people that want to be here for the long term, and let's build amazing product experiences, both for the people who are in the space today and using NFTs and trading tokens and all those things, but to the previous talk with Henry, also thinking about the next incremental user and how we take this to a broader audience over time.
I think you must have nerves of steel, Devin. We were talking about learning to fly off stage and sort of Tom Cruise nerves of steel to fly through this extraordinary industry we've had. And you've recently got married, and I think you said to me that your nerves of steel and your calmness through all of this is very much supported by your new wife.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for anyone operating in, the world today when things are just, everything in technology is moving so quickly and it's super, super exciting. I think the most important thing you can invest in your life, in your career, is sort of a stable psychology that is able to kind of weather whatever life gets thrown at you. And yeah, for me, that's been a huge part of that has been my wife, and I think that's a big part of the process for everyone who's either an entrepreneur or builder or founder or what have you, is building that kind of mental resilience over time.
And the momentum that we're seeing back in the industry, you've seen a regulator do a complete 180 degrees. Do you agree that the encouragement that we're seeing from the current regulator is going to help the industry?
100%. I mean, one thing that really blew my mind, back when the SEC sort of had this extremely aggressive, unfair posture towards crypto companies, which was basically to go and say, look, every single kind of major player or good actor in the space, we're going to hit with an investigation and a Wells notice because, we just don't like crypto, essentially. Now that has completely turned around, a lot of the folks who were sitting on the sidelines and saying, look, this is actually too kind of regulatorily, I don't really understand what's going on here. Now they're getting excited again, right? Back when the SEC took that posture, I would literally talk to artists, creators, builders, people who wanted to do NFTs, and they were like, I just don't understand what's going on with this regulation stuff. It's scary. And I think what's interesting now is that, there's sort of an overhang from that, right? People don't not everyone who's an artist is going to follow the news and kind of understand the regulatory environment. So it's our job to really, go and kind of bring this thing back in a sense, and recover from, I think, a lot of the bruises that the industry has weathered as a result of kind of essentially unfair regulatory posture towards the space.
And so what's your wish going forward? Because I know we're seeing this turnaround in federal regulation, but we still have this extraordinary variation in state regulation, and I know you operate in jurisdictions around the world. What is your wish for smart regulation?
I mean, I think I'd say generally things are moving in the right direction. And, I think the sort of, overarching philosophy behind good regulation is really just that it shouldn't be one size fits all, right? For NFTs, for example, the vast majority of NFTs are art collectibles. They're obviously not financial assets like securities, and so to go and sort of make blanket statements or the like would obviously be a really unthoughtful approach to regulation. So I think there's a lot of detail, a lot of nuance to it, but I think the most important thing for me is really just that it's not a one size fits all. And I think what's really exciting is that when you talk to government officials, regulators, one thing that's really amazing to see is that they now understand the technology, right, at a much more sophisticated level. They understand, the difference between a decentralized exchange and a centralized exchange, non-custodial versus custodial. That is extremely cool. It's extremely impressive. Some of the folks that I've talked to in Congress, for example, have demonstrated a really great understanding. So I think it's all moving in the right direction.
Well, it might interest you to know that the person from the SEC that we have speaking in a couple of hours, Mike Seelig, he actually attended our first NFT.NYC event. And
there we go. That's awesome.
A year ago, he was hired by the SEC, which goes exactly to your point.
Yeah.
That's really great. So you've recently started selling ERC20s or being an exchange for ERC20s. Is that because it increases deal flow for NFTs? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think it really comes back to kind of what is the mission of OpenSea as a whole. And I've actually never seen as much of a sort of clear separation between the NFT space and the token trading space. I've really seen it as kind of the tokenization of everything. And, some of those things are, financial assets or stable coins, and some of them are art and collectibles and gaming items. And some of them are fungible, some of them are non-fungible, some of them are somewhere in between, right? There's, with an NFT collection, there's often some sort of fungibility at the floor, especially when it's a mint and things are unrevealed. So I've actually always seen OpenSea as playing a role in the whole spectrum of trading across everything. And our mission statement now is really be the best place to discover, own, and trade on-chain. And that really covers everything under the sun. And the recent upgrade that we've made to the product expands our offering into token trading, and we've put out a preliminary product there. We're continuing to improve and iterate on it, and we really want OpenSea to be the best possible home for kind of your Web3 on-chain experience. We want people to be able to go there and manage their portfolio, trade anything, explore, discover. And also for it to be sort of a cultural hub for Web3. And I think that's really what NFTs have captured in the imagination of all of us. And token trading is a big part of that too.
And so being now very involved in token trading, you've probably seen some of your competitors in that space. They use centralized wallets. They don't use, well, many of them don't use self-custodial wallets. That must have created quite a lot of internal discussion for you, the sort of the tension between self-custodial and centralized wallets. Can you tell us about that?
It's an excellent topic, because I think the big trend, and perhaps a little bit of an obvious trend at this point, but like a extremely exciting trend is that liquidity is moving on-chain and permissionless. And if you look at the share of exchange volume, still overwhelmingly centralized exchanges, but the percentage of share that is captured by DEXs and on-chain liquidity is growing rapidly over time. And why is that? Well, first of all, permissionless liquidity, if you can get the user experience good enough, is actually just way better, right? It allows you to trade anything. You don't have to worry about sort of where your funds are managed. You don't have to go through this sort of arduous setup process with centralized exchanges, which can, we saw with a bunch of these sort of big centralized exchanges, there have been some massive security breaches. And there's a lot of problems to solve in the decentralized world with regards to security too, but it's a very different kind of set of solutions that you can introduce that I think are longer term, more sustainable. Now, the trade-off you get with decentralized liquidity is that there's still a lot of improvements that need to be made to the user experience, right? If you go and try to trade, millions of dollars of Ripple on a decentralized exchange, you probably have a tough time because the liquidity is not necessarily there. But this is a problem that's being solved, and with Hyperliquid coming and bringing on-chain order books and just all of the sort of technology that's being developed in the decentralized exchange world, this is starting to be a real competitor to centralized exchanges, and we're long-term believers in that, right? We're long-term believers in people being able to have more control over the experience, being able to experience Web3 in a way that doesn't feel, just like a bank, but really feels like a fun consumer application. And we think that, the sort of self-custodial model, especially with things like Privy coming online and making it a lot easier, is going to really power that over time.
And just to be clear, I think we're using the words permissionless, decentralized, and self-custodial all to sort of mean the same thing, right? And to explain the technology, all three things mean that a smart contract that is running on many servers, decentralized, is end-to-end controlling the transaction, so that there's no single company or single centralized authority that does it. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's about right. I would say, you're right. There's a lot of different ingredients to this, right? Because there's, what wallet the user is bringing, where's the liquidity coming from, what chain are they on? But I think at the end of the day, it's really what you said, which is that, you're able to plug into a permissionless liquidity pool that is sort of powered by a blockchain underneath the surface. There's all sorts of different interfaces to that, but that model, I think, is just incredibly exciting. The other thing I would call out here is it's incredibly exciting for agentic trading, right? So if you think about, now people are using AI for so many things in their lives, it makes a lot of sense that you would want to have at least some AI assistance in your trading behavior. And it's way easier to plug an agent into decentralized liquidity pools than it is to pull from centralized exchanges, for example.
I love it that you're speaking about agentic AI, because in my intro I said, wouldn't it be wonderful if we used NFTs to identify agentic AI and to keep track of their provenance and history, so that when an agentic AI knocks on my door, I know whether it's a good person or a bad person. I mean, I deeply believe that we're conference number 8. By conference number 10, I think there could be more agentic AIs in the world than people. What do you reckon? What do you think about that?
Sounds about right to me.
It's possible.
It's hard to define, right? Because, even at OpenSea, like internally, we're constantly spinning up agents to go and perform work. And one of the really powerful things that this has enabled is it's allowed some of our non-engineers to go and build little projects within the company without any coding knowledge. So, I wouldn't be surprised if, by some measurement, what you're saying is already the case, which is that there's already all of these kind of agents going out there. Now, there's only a subset that are sort of fully autonomous and have a Twitter account and an on-chain address and NFTs and all those sorts of things. And I think it's going to be really fun to see those grow. And I think NFTs are this really, as you said, sort of perfect identity layer for saying, okay, you know, this agent here has this collection of NFTs. You know, they have some sort of reputation in the space, and that can be factored into kind of my trust model for them as well.
And when you were describing your platform as a platform for really any digital asset, were you suggesting that you may be trading agentic AIs?
Totally. I mean, if you represented, I think there's a couple projects like this where the agent is like represented as an NFT. You can buy and sell it. Maybe these are early, but I think you can probably do that today on OpenSea. It's just, you know, with all of these things, it's usually a situation where the future is here, the technology is here. It just hasn't been kind of fully distributed, right? But I mean, you know, we've been saying this since 2017. The beautiful thing about NFTs and tokens is that you can literally represent anything and create a market for it, and you know, you can represent ownership of an agent, and I think those sorts of things are just super fun and super cool.
So just sort of getting back to the beginning, we started by talking about your nerves of steel and the support that you have from your wife, and I haven't prepped Devin for this question. I imagine, you know, God willing, one day you may have children. What would you recommend to your children they should be doing in this crazy agentic AI world? What profession would you recommend?
Oh my gosh. I mean, my cop-out answer is I think it's going to depend. I think things are going to change every single month and every single year, right? And so every single month you have to update your priors on kind of, you know, the state of things. But I will tell you, for folks that I talk to who are, you know, coming out of college or maybe in their late teens or something like that, I really encourage people to go down the path of either entrepreneurship directly and giving it a shot, or finding an entrepreneur that they can learn from and get mentorship from, because entrepreneurship is really this broad thing. It doesn't necessarily mean like starting a traditional company or raising money or like all of these things. It's really just the spirit of being innovative and being able to build on your own, and, you know, not necessarily sort of being beholden to like structures, right? I think that's really important in this day and age, is to not feel like you have to sort of adhere to some you know, corporate hierarchy, right? And the other thing I would recommend for people is, you know, it's much less about kind of a know-it-all type of mindset where it's like you have lots of knowledge, you have all of these, you know, facts, and it's much more about a learn-it-all mindset where any problem, any space, you can go, and using AI, you can go and figure it out, right? But having the skill set to be able to go and figure it out, which a lot of that is sort of mental fortitude as well, I think is really important. But, you know, I generally encourage people to sort of not assume that the existing, you know, paths, college, you know, getting an entry-level job, et cetera, are necessarily the best ones. Instead, I encourage people to be highly entrepreneurial and to sort of think outside the box and challenge a lot of the assumptions that maybe they had before the world was, you know, so changing at the pace that it is today.
I worry that, and FYI, my eldest daughter's about to have a baby. I'm about to become a grandfather, and thank you.
Woo!
And I worry, you know, when the smartest person in the room is the AI, you know, what will my grandchild want to do? You know, will it be UBI? Will it be universal basic income?
Well, I think you know, it's a really good question, and it's hard to say, but I will say, like, you know, no one is. There's always a smarter person, right? And yet we persevere and we do things and we create, knowing that, you know, there are people out there that are more competent and more capable than us. That doesn't necessarily mean that we don't strive and we don't have a generative drive to do things, right? And so Yeah, we're going to have intelligence at our fingertips. We're going to have a lot of things that were uniquely only able to be done by humans, now able to done by AIs. But I think in some ways, we'll gain these superpowers that allow us to kind of say, okay, look, this is the thing that I want to go and put out in the world. How do I amplify that in like an extreme way using AI, right? If I have an idea or a concept or a creative vision, how do I go and execute that with AI? Yeah. Even if, yeah, sure, that vision could have been thought of by some other AI out there. Well, it's still mine. It's still uniquely human, and it's what I want to put out in the world. So, yeah, there's all sorts of these existential questions, and a lot of them are legitimately worrisome. But I think there's an optimistic lens on things as well.
Great session as usual, Devin.
Yeah.
Really amazing. Big thank you.
Thanks for having me.
I think because we're running behind time, are we going to do a Q&A or not? Devin, can you just stay for 1 sec? Peter, do we have time for a Q&A or not? We've got just a couple of minutes for a Q&A. So who would like to ask Devin a question? We've got another one up the front. Go ahead. Do you want to jump up? Thanks. Yeah. Okay, one in the back first. Go for it.
Is it on? All right. Hi, Devin.
Hey.
My name is O, and I'm getting ready to release my project that I've been working on for 5 years. And I was just wondering if there's a feature on OpenSea that allows you to have like one project and then within like a layer, multiple sub-projects for sale, I guess, or just like creating a universe with multiple layers, and then within each layer, there could be X amount of NFTs.
Pretty much yes, I would say. There's a way to, and we can help you out with this. It's not something that's like fully self-serve at this point, but you can sort of create a parent, you think of it as sort of like a parent collection that features various NFT collections underneath it. And so we've done this for a number of projects. If you search for art blocks, you can kind of see all the art blocks under one universe. So yeah, talk to our team. There's some folks sitting over here, and we can try to figure something out.
And then we have one more question up the front. Go ahead.
Hi, Devin. Wanted to ask, I remember OpenSea kind of had some riffraff a little bit in the community around royalties back in the day. I was wondering, what did you guys learn from that experience?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I think there's a lot of learnings. I would say one is on the sort of communication front. I think, we sort of definitely should have communicated things differently, and probably should have made there's some decisions I think we should have made differently too. So, I think decision-making processes at a company you can end up kind of leading by or making decisions by consensus as opposed to by first principles. And at the time, things were in a pretty crazy state, and I would say that we leaned way too heavily on the more consensus-based decision-making, and that led to a lot of really bad decisions. And now at OpenSea, we really make decisions from extreme first principles. So it doesn't matter if 7 people in the room say we should do this, and one person in the room says we should do that. If the one person in the room has a really, really good reason and is right, then we go with the one person who's saying that, right? Because it's the right thing to do. So I think it's really, a testament to sort of we've communicated a lot more clearly now. We're really clear about why we do the things we do. That's number one. And then when we actually decide on things, we decide in just a very, very rigorous way. So those are probably some of the bigger learnings.
If I could just add to that, you must have half your team must be people who've been with the company for less than a year or two. And the culture that you as the leader have brought to that is extraordinary, that you can run such a big company now with so many new people.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been a big learning for me, is just you can get so much done if you have a small group of people who are all aligned in the same direction, who are all excited and passionate, and who are all super, super smart. You know, my mind was so boggled by this, because when we have fewer people, we get more done. And it's like, why, right? And so I won't go into it, but I even wrote out a math equation, you know, around the like quadratic costs of, you know, the cost of more people increases increases quadratically, right? Whereas the impact increases more linearly. But then if you scale up to an A player, it goes up to this, right? Like, so you can actually map it out, and very roughly, and you can figure out why this is. But yeah, it's just so true. You know, you get, and it was something I had to learn the hard way by scaling way too quickly. But yeah, it's just so true. You know, you get a small group of really, really talented, aligned people together, and you can move, way faster, and you can accomplish really amazing things.
Devin, it's fantastic to have you. I'm going to ask you to stay on stage for 30 more seconds, because I'm going to have Mike come up now. Peter, can I have Mike come up now? I just want to say big thank you again. If it wasn't for you and it wasn't for my tech company, this event wouldn't be happening. So big thank you, Devin.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Now, just before you go, though, I did want to have on stage the two most important people in our industry together, right? Devin, who runs OpenSea, and Mike, who has been long-time alumni of NFT.NYC, who is now the chief counsel of the SEC Crypto Task Force. And it's wonderful to get this picture of these two important people together.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, pal. Good to see you.